enjoyed Joker. It's time for another Joker Reviews. I'm Mike.
I am Daniel.
And I'm Vincent. Did either of you see Joker yet?
I'm not seeing it. That was our intro last week too. So but no, it's welcome
I like this.
into S.H.I.E.L.D. Weekly Reviews.
Yes, that's what it actually is. So, as my co-host stated last week, I think, unless you made up a cover story for me.
No, we said you were at New York Comic Con.
Yeah. Because I think I've missed two of these shows. I think.
Yeah, you've only
previous time I got covered. So I was at New York Comic Con. I was kind of there for work, so to be honest, it wasn't like I was like getting the full like fan fun experience of the show. But I will say, not really a fan of New York Comic Con. It's humongous. There are way too many people standing and walking around for like 7 hours straight on the concrete floor. No different than most other cons, but just brutal. No, I don't know. It was not super pleasant for me, but I did manage to get some things done and also get some things. And I will now show those off first. So I guess there's only really two pieces of like actual. There are a few categories to this. So first, I have things that I bought like wholesale essentially from the show. So I went to Alexis Zarit, or maybe his name is Zarat. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. His table. He's an artist. He has a Black Mask book called Space Riders, which is kind of a cult hit, and his art is just insane, and also the writing in here, which he has a co-writer for this stuff. But it's just really cool, like crazy psychedelic art. And this is some kind of like, I don't know if I think it's sort of like an ash can leading into the next miniseries or something. And I was just like, yeah, I'll take that. Here's your $5 or whatever. But then he sits there and does like essentially like a remark. And, it's not like super detailed or anything, but he spent a considerable amount of time on that. And I did not, expect that or anything. And then also, whatever this is also from him. I haven't really dived into it yet. And then the other thing that I actually kind of, that was like new at the show, well, exclusive to the show, is I bought this dumb Ghost Rider variant it's by Philip Tan, who will come up on the show later. And this is
the fourth Ghost Rider #1 you've bought now, right?
Yeah. It's supposed to be glow in the dark. I haven't really tested that yet. And like tax and everything included, I spent like rounded up basically $30 fucking on this. But it was only at the show. They had 4 exclusive covers. It was this one. I don't know if it's got to be for one of either Hawks or Pox, but there's one. It was the Jake Scott Campbell Storm cover. I think it was Campbell. They also had some kind of like generic like Marvel Universe cover. I don't know what it was the cover for, but it was just like a movie poster style, a bunch of characters. And then they had a Strike Force #1 cover, and it was Spider-Woman, and I'm not certain what artist. That one was really great too, but I wasn't going to spend $60 on covers. But yeah, I'll have to test the glow in the dark on this later. And then my main Ghost Rider #1, it's not going to get picked up well, especially in the bag, but I got it signed by the writer Ed Brisson, the primary artist Aaron Cooter, and Juan Frigeri, who Juan Frigeri drew this issue, which came before the ongoing series, The Symbiote of Vengeance, and he also drew the Marvel Comics Presents #6 story, and he actually has a epilogue in this issue, which is drawn entirely by him. So I don't know why his name is not credited on the cover, but he was at the show, and I went to his table like 3 times, and he wasn't there for those moments. And then I was gonna meet him. I was gonna go back to his table later, and then suddenly my feet decided to give out on me, and I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out of New York as fast as I can. So I missed him. Maybe I'll see him at a show eventually, maybe next New York. And I also got Joe Caramagna, the letterer of this issue, to sign it
Nice.
while I was there.
Well,
And
you weren't. Well, Vince, I'll quickly to stop you. I know you weren't on the show last week while we covered Ghost Rider. Well, what did you think? Because I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really like it. I think it'll be interesting to see how the balance and the interplay between Danny and Johnny, because they're kind of having their cake and eating it too, but it works because they both have distinct status quos and everything right now. I'm interested to see how that plays out. And specifically on that point, I think it's funny. Actually, if you poke around the internet, obviously people who review the book know what they're talking about. But if you poke around like previews or people just reporting on the success of the book, some people think that it's a Johnny Blaze book. I saw that in like 1 or 2 articles, and I just think it's funny. But I hope the book does really well. And I don't know. I have crazy plans for it and stuff as a collector. But then here's another Ghost Rider #1.
Hey,
And this I got signed by Howard Mackey and by Mark Texeira. And so that was pretty cool.
should have had Howard Mackey film a thing for us since we covered so much of it. This is the second time you've blown a chance like this.
I did consider it for half a second. But also Tex was like, I had to pay for Tex's signature regardless, but also it was like $5 for a signature, and just $10 I could have gotten like a remark or something, which I kind of feel like I should have just done, but whatever. Maybe I can have him top it off if I see him again. Then I got Ghost Rider Captain America Fear, signed by Lee Weeks.
Did you buy the Lee Weeks page?
He didn't have his original art like out on the table. There was a sign where it's like ask about original art, so it's probably under the table or something. But I had so much stuff going on and just skipped it. And then here's this Ghost Rider Wolverine Punisher Hearts of Darkness. This is big story with Blackheart and stuff, drawn by John Romita Jr. Like I swear to God that I've owned this book, probably multiple copies, but I can't find mine, and I like literally searched because the night before the con. But Howard Mackey
buy that book once a year when we go to that one store on the Harrisburg trip. I feel like you buy that book like almost annually once a year, and there's like 13 copies of it at that store that's in that house, and you just buy one every year because you forget you buy one.
I'm not sure. I might. But Howard Mackey had a stack of them, and compared to the fact that you could probably find these in some dollar bins, it was a little expensive. But I was like, all right, fuck it. I'm here already. I'm in front of Mackey's table. I'm getting him to sign something. Let me throw some cash his way. And he just signed it while he's at it. And John Romita Jr. was there, and I probably could have tracked him down to sign it, and I should have. But I just had stuff going on, and like I didn't want to be running back and forth. So multiple missed opportunities on signatures. And the last signature I got was Doc Shaner signature on Convergence Shazam #1. And on that note, I got for Mike this print from Doc Shaner, signed, and it says for Mike.
What was cool about that is I was sitting having my dinner in a restaurant when I was scrolling on Twitter, and I saw that Shaner had his prints up for sale, and I texted Vince, "Hey, I know you're going by Shaner's table. Any chance?" And within 10 minutes, he responded with a picture of it with that, which was very, very cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah. What I brought and did not get signed, again due to misconnections and busyness, I wanted to get. I basically just brought a bunch of Ghost Rider shit because I'm hyped about the new series. and I'm like very close to having every single fucking thing that I need for the original Danny Ketch run and everything like that. So I should have got Adam Kubert to sign Spirits of Vengeance #1. I should have got Ron Garney to sign Night Stalkers #1, and then not Ghost Rider related. I wanted to get Eric Larson to sign Savage Dragon #1, and then current Ghost Rider stuff. Considering getting Matt Rosenberg to sign this Punisher issue with Danny Ketch, but did not get around to those. And now we have the other shit that I bought, kind of more traditional haul. There was, like I said, like the vibe, the overall vibe, and the mix of the retailers at this show. It's not really my cup of tea. I much prefer kind of the mix of things at the smaller cons, like the ones we go to in Philly.
Well, and you can refer because to New York is so commercialized at this point.
Yeah,
they put out a picture of on Twitter on Thursday, which is just the preview day, and they had record breaking for that, where it was outside the door, which was crazy for Thursday.
So there was one vendor that had dollar bins and a shitload of them, and they don't have boards, but they're bagged, and also alphabetized and everything. So I spent some time between meetings there, and I got 40 issues. So I spent $40 in the dollar bins, and this stack, and I did it over my 2 days. So I'm not going to show, but I basically, let me see. Basically, like 20 of these are Valiant. So I filled in some Valiant holes, and I'm pulling out the ones that are not Valiant, because then we're going to do a gimmicky thing to pick the next retro book. I'm going to show the things that are not Valiant, and also because we literally just read a Valiant book.
Well, me and Dan read a Valiant book. You weren't here.
Yeah. So we're going to, out of the books, oh god, the non-Valiant books, we're going to pick one, and that is going to be our retro book. Okay, so I got some Death's Head. That's not going to be part of the mix because that's not very interesting. I got some issues of Morbius. Okay, so this is going to be the selections. So keep in mind, and if you have a clear favorite, we'll figure it out. So we have Evil Ernie Straight to Hell #1 from Chaos Comics. And if we cover it next time, I will show you how the gimmick cover works, but it would take too long to take it out of the bag. There's also a cosplay photo on the back, but it's a really weird gimmick cover. So that may sway your decision making. Then we've got Darkhawk Annual #1, part of Assault on Armor City.
Well, I know what Dan's choosing.
Oh yeah.
Featuring Iron Man. Then we've got Morbius #15, featuring Ghost Rider. And we've got Amethyst #13, featuring Dr. Fate, and it's a Crisis tie-in, which means we're going to read it twice eventually anyway, if it is chosen. And we've got Resurrection Man #1,000,000. So those are our choices. What do you guys think?
I want Resurrection Man 1,000,000 just because that seems crazy and cool.
Dan, what's your vote?
Darkhawk.
God damn it.
Why'd you even ask him? You knew he was going to choose that the minute he saw Iron Man.
I know. So, to be the tiebreaker, I will divert my choice to the random number generator. And so, basically, similar to other shows, at some point during the show, I will flip a coin, an imaginary coin, and it will be one of those two books. And I will announce it at the end of the show. And that is almost the end of my haul. I actually have one final thing. I haven't even taken it out of the bag yet, but I did get the God damn it, Yeah, I'm not even going to be able to show it off really very well. But I did get the Namor by John Byrne and Jay Lee omnibus, which I'm very excited about.
Are people like selling like trades and stuff at New York Comic Con, or not really at all?
Not much. There was one vendor. In fact, it's one that is at the Philly shows. It's a New Jersey retailer, and they do like $7 or $5 trades or something like that.
Morning.
Something like that. It's like I forget what the store's called, but we've seen him at shows and bought stuff from them before. They are there. There are a few other folks with trades and discounted trades, but otherwise it's a lot of vendors with like essentially wall books and like old stuff. So more expensive single issues, rare variants, exclusive variants, original art, stuff like that. Not really my vibe. That's my haul. Who else has haul stuff?
I just have one book. I'll make mine really short. So I picked up on Amazon the Miss Marvel Epic Collection Volume 2. The Woman Who Fell to Earth. This has Miss Marvel 15 through 23, Marvel Team Up 76 77, Marvel 2 and 1 51, Marvel Superheroes numbers 10 through 11, Avengers 200. Can't wait to read that, and Annual number 10. And Marvel.
Oh boy.
Yeah, basically the screwed up issue, and then Chris Claremont fixing it. So we'll see how it goes.
So Marvel Superheroes 10 to 11. That's the 90s series where it's like a weird anthology, but it was basically used exactly the same as like Marvel Fanfare and Marvel Comics Presents, where they just threw random filler shit in there. And Marvel Superheroes 10 to 11 is actually the repurposed number 24. Does the series end at 23?
And then, yeah, 23, yeah.
So Marvel Superheroes 10 to 11 is 24. Just published a decade later.
Yeah, I picked this up for it was like $10 on Amazon. That's why I got it, because I was gonna pay $35 for it.
You have the first one too, so you have everything then.
Yeah, I already read that. It was alright. Second half was better. So
Okay, so that's the haul. Moving on to the show.
Moving on to this week's books, but we're always going to start with that retro book, Avengers Volume 3, number 64, which is what we voted on last week at the end of the show. It's Jeff Johns and Ivan Reis on the Avengers, which is always like a crazy thing because Jeff Johns is a DC guy.
So is Ivan Reis.
Yeah, I was going to say that whole team, we know them for Green Lantern. We know them for the long run stretch of Johns' Green Lantern run, and Ivan Reis was kind of the main guy leading up to Blackest Night and then into Brightest Day. But I've always been a big Ivan Reis fan. I think that was his peak. I still enjoy his Superman stuff here and there, but I'll say this is a very, I think, young Ivan Reis here because it looks very, very normal and kind of almost house style almost, even though I kind of felt like that's always been Ivan Reis's style. But this issue is a spotlight on the Falcon, who has joined the Avengers, and he's just tailing Henry Peter Gyrich, the kind of nefarious government liaison to the Avengers who always gives them trouble. And he's just kind of tailing him, and they basically end up having a conversation where it's juxtaposed with Falcon's a hero who's going to do what's right, and Henry Peter Gyrich is going to be a government stooge the whole time. And even like coming out and addressing that Gyrich only wanted Falcon on the team because of his ethnicity, and then for that, like Falcon just cold clocks him. But as they have their discussion, the neighbors of Gyrich are kidnapped by the Scarecrow, and Falcon stops them and basically says, "Hey, I'm going to be around your neighborhood. The Avengers are going to watch you, and I'm going to save the day and make sure and show that these people are never alone in New York because the Avengers don't just take on the big threats; they take on the small threats too." I thought this was a pretty good issue. I like the Falcon a lot, so just pulling back and having him be in the spotlight for this I thought pretty cool. But what did you guys think?
Yeah, kind of a lot of the same what you mentioned. This run is on my bookshelf, and I still haven't gotten to reading it yet. And this issue, isolated from the rest, kind of makes me really want to go and put that up to the front of my reading list because it was pretty good. I mean, I like the focus on Falcon, like you said. I think he's a good character, kind of underrated a little bit. So
No, I think he's really, really a solid character, and it's cool when people throw him more in the spotlight because he, at one point, as we know, he was like he owned the title with Captain America. It was Captain America and the Falcon. It wasn't just Captain America for a good portion of time. So, and definitely, I'm excited for him to take over as Cap of the MCU and stuff like that. But I thought this was a really good issue, kind of showing who Falcon is and who Sam Wilson is.
Yeah, it handles his backstory very well. I think Ivan Reese is great. There's like literally like 3 full page flashes of the Falcon, and
Yeah.
I mean technically the Falcon got his first solo series like 2 years ago or something, and I don't know, no one was that hype on it. Well, I mean he had solo series as while he was Captain America, obviously, but I mean this is definitely like the key issue for the Falcon. Um, and so the whole like divert the his beef with Gyrich and like stuff that's referenced here that goes all the way back to Avengers 181. And Gyrich was acting, I think, on the directive of the government when the Avengers were more connected to the government, but there was literally a diversity quota, and that's the 181 is the famous George Perez. I think it's George Perez cover where, or maybe it's Byrne, where there's like 100 Avengers on the cover, and it's like, no, there can only be that a few of you, and Falcon ends up being, and it was cool putting him up against Scarecrow. I think it's an interesting fit, and it's kind of giving.
You good? Or
I
you
don't know
want
how much.
to continue? I was like,
Um, yeah, and then the reference to Yellow Jacket and Wasp.
amazing.
The reference to Yellow Jacket and the Wasp going to Vegas. That's Avengers 71, a few issues from now. And in between is the Red Zone arc. At the end here with Del Rusk.
All right. Amazing Spider-Man number 31.
well, I hope my Wi-Fi doesn't shit out on me halfway through this. So Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, number 31. So we pick up in this issue with the mysterious character, which name escapes me again, still talking to Norman in the
Kindred. How do you not know?
what is it?
He knows it all the time.
What is it again?
Kindred. It's Kindred.
Oh, okay, Kindred, whatever. I don't care. Anyway, he's still talking, and we're still in like this kind of like flashback sequence kind of thing where Peter's fighting the Carnage Norman Osborn-ish thingy. I don't know what it really is at this point. It's pretty much Norman, but it's not. And throughout this book, again, we're getting more flashbacks from the original, like kind of like Death of Gwen Stacy era. Harry using drugs era of the Amazing Spider-Man back from the 1970s. So that's kind of cool how they're using that, and especially honing in on the relationship between Norman and Harry during the time when Harry is going through his drug withdrawal and drug abuse stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. Throughout the whole issue, we're kind of getting that flashback between that and the current fight that's going on between Peter and this like Carnage Norm symbiote type of thing. And again, we're getting more backstory towards why Peter got the symbiote in the first place in the Secret Wars. There's a mention in this issue about how he how he went to, put on, like, he wanted to wear the symbiote suit so that he could protect himself and protect the people he loved, so that the thing that happened with Gwen, her being tossed off the bridge by the Green Goblin, would never happen to anyone else again. So I thought that's a little interesting. It kind of delves a little bit deeper into what we already know about the symbiote. And this issue probably is my pick of the week, just because there's really not a lot of other good books I read this week. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I really have to say about this issue. The art is still amazing. And yeah, what do you guys think?
I thought it was a solid issue. Ryan Otley goes crazy with his fight scenes, and they're beautiful. They have so much impact. Spencer's writing here continues to be amazing. Not for pun intended, whether you want it to be or not. But I love with the juxtaposed to the fight through Peter and Norman's history, the kind of the great backward, like the great backlogging of this is Spider-Man always gets up, and you keep hearing that as he's getting punched down. It's like, get up, and the box is getting bigger, and finally Spider-Man stands up and beats Carnage, or like the Norman Carnage, whatever you want to call it. I thought it was great. I love everything that we're going here with this. I'm very intrigued to know who Kindred's Trinity is going to be. And Dan, you mentioned the art has been good, but I think it possibly is going to maybe be better, because in 2 weeks when we kick off the 2099 arc, we're getting Patrick Gleason.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
So Amazing Spider-Man continuing to be firing on all cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like this issue. Interested to see where Kindred goes. The obvious suggestion within here, all kinds of theories pointing around, and there's other ideas in the water, I suppose. So we read Batman's Grave #1. This is Warren Ellis, Brian Hitch, Kevin Nolan, and Alex Sinclair for a 12-issue maxi series. Kind of as high a profile creative team as DC can do right now. Short of putting, I guess, Frank Miller and Jim Lee on a Batman book again. So it introduces this very strange concept, which the title gets its name from, where Bruce already has a grave for himself next to his parents, which is sort of weird. But there's a couple coming home from a movie. They basically went out to see the Joker, and they're accosted in an alleyway, but Batman saves them. They almost get Joe chilled. And apparently there's so many 911 calls on this particular night that the cops have to put people on hold, and that just shows like the ridiculous circumstances of Gotham City. And there's a dead guy in an apartment, and he's surrounded by newspaper clippings and stuff of Batman, but there's otherwise no evidence there. And so Bruce kind of scans the area, calls it in, and then goes back home to think about it, finds Alfred drinking, and Alfred basically gets into not an argument, but talks to him, like basically just going back and forth on the concepts of vigilantism and wealth and everything like that. It's kind of like the whole like normie, like, oh, Batman could just throw his money around and save. There's more depth to it than the standard arguments like that. And Batman has an interesting line, I thought, where he says, I can't think like a killer, only a victim. And then he proceeds to do that. He basically goes into this very deep role playing, like putting himself in the shoes of the victim as opposed to like in the shoes of a serial killer. And then he goes back, and I guess the killer is just hanging out under the floorboards, or it's another corpse. I don't know. I didn't.
Yeah, he's out under the floorboards. He's still alive.
Yeah, I didn't. But like, I didn't 100% understand like what Bruce pieces together to fully figure that out. like the puzzle to it, it didn't 100% click to me. But everything here, I mean, other than it not completely clicking for me, I thought everything here is executed perfectly, and it's very strange. And based on this first issue, I have no idea where this goes from here and how it stretches out 12 issues. But from this creative team, I'm gonna keep reading for sure.
Yeah, my only question to this is this in continuity? I have no idea. Batman's wearing the right costume, but there's been so many Batman books at DC that I don't know what's in and what's out anymore. Especially when it comes to these 12-issue maxi series from DC, as they've been bringing these back. I know like the Superman ones for Jimmy and Lois are. I have no idea if this is, but this is the best I've seen Brian Hitch's art in a long time, and I think that is benefited greatly from Kevin Nolan being on inks. It's really, I can see a lot of Kevin Nolan in his art, in the art here for Hitch, and I think it looks just absolutely tremendous. That first like kind of half page splash of Batman looking over Gotham is beautiful, and that could like easily be a poster. But I mean, Warren Ellis is a master of his craft. Brian Hitch is a master. Kevin Nolan's a master. This is a great team, and I'm definitely going to stick on this. But I wasn't fully blown away by it. It was good, but I didn't love it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as well. The whole aspect of the murder and what's going on here is intriguing to me. I mean, this is kind of like the level of Batman stuff that I think I enjoy. The detective aspect of him, obviously, but yeah, I think this is something that not so actiony, but it works. So I'm excited.
Into a book with a lot of action, Dan. Detective Comics.
Yes, Detective Comics number 1013. So, picking up with a Mr. Freeze arc, we get Batman tracking down, like kind of going back and tracking down the kidnappers for one of the people that Mr. Freeze was, one of the women that Mr. Freeze was taking to kind of experiment on and use to bring back his wife. And the guy pretty much gives in to Batman and tells him where, Mr. Freeze is at and all that stuff. And he ends up tracking him down. And I gotta say, I'm not really like huge into like all the different like Batman costumes or stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I
But
agree. I didn't really love this part where Batman breaks down the door to confront Freeze in the giant like fire suit. This is the second time we've seen like a giant suit like that in Tomasi's tech run, and I know I used it I think a little bit in Batman and Robin. I don't love this because it's too close. Well, it's not even. It's just straight up like the old action figures you'd find as a kid, of like here's like fire assault Batman. Like I don't like that.
yeah, it just felt a little too over the top, I think.
I love it. I think it's amazing.
No, I like it on some end, but like I definitely don't want this to be a norm. Like normally when he fights Freeze, like he's had like a cold suit or something that was cool, but like I thought this was just a smidge over the top for me.
Yeah, and I guess like if there's gonna be one book that something like this is gonna appear in, it probably is gonna be Detective because this book is just like it's just that type of book to me. It feels like after reading it for these past I don't know 6 or 7 months now.
Well, it's just blending everything about Batman in this run, and I mean Kamasi's just pulling from everything. He's just so good.
Yeah,
You're gonna get a little bit of everything.
definitely. So yeah, so pretty much the length of the book is, Batman and Iceman, Batman and Mister Freeze fighting, and there's one point where Mister Freeze freezes Batman underwater, and he uses his suit obviously to melt out of that and get free. But after that, Mister Freeze is gone. but they're able to go back to the lab that Mr. Freeze abandoned to, acquire his wife. That sounds a little weird.
Well, no, they acquired the woman he kidnapped.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay, my bad. Yeah, I don't think they didn't get the wife. But what I think is funny in this scene here is Batman is like wearing his costume still, and um, shit.
It's Alfred.
Alfred. How do I not know that? Alfred is wearing a Flash mask, which I think is funny, and he's like, "Why are we wearing this?" He's like, "These people don't know who we are. Like, we can't just let them know."
Yeah.
So
It's very similar to in Batman the Animated Series where Batman rescues the Freeze henchman and then they bring him back to the Batcave, but they blindfold him so they don't know that Batman's Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of cool. And then the last scene we have here in this issue is Mr. Freeze kind of going back to this other lab that he had and using the research he's done to revive his wife, I believe, right? And she's saying, Victor, don't. So we'll see what that means.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, like I said before, this book is pretty approachable for someone like me, and I like it. I mean, it's it's one of those things. It was a very quick read, I will say that. It took me maybe about like 5-10 minutes to read this issue.
Oh, there's a lot of action.
Yeah, and I think the art is pretty good too. So, what do you guys think?
I enjoyed it. I kind of shared my thoughts when I was interjecting there, but no, Detective continues to be good. But once again, just like Batman's Grave, liked it, didn't love it. I just want to know how this Freeze arc is going to go because I liked the beginning of it, and now I'm just like, it's kind of just another Batman Freeze fight.
I think it's hilarious how every single issue of Tomasi's run for the past like 10 issues has to have a footnote explaining how it takes place before certain parts of Tom King's run. Because Tom King is just telling like a 15 issue arc with an entirely different status quo for Gotham. And so nothing can take place. Well, in the next issue, we'll see that stuff takes place alongside. But Tomasi doesn't want to mess with that at the moment, it seems. I really love this. Dan kind of glossed over a little bit the opening moments with Alfred, where he's giving, as Bruce says, an Oscar-worthy performance, acting as a dead henchman with a disguise and everything, and also attempting to not have his breathing as prominent. I really love the way Tomasi uses Alfred.
It's fantastic.
And I love the suit because it's just so ridiculous. And he even has this heat gun. And for a second, I'm like, okay, Batman has a gun. But then it's like, oh, he's fighting undead ice zombies. But then they tear away his gun before he can even use it because he hesitates because of the gun. So we don't get to see the heat rifle. And then there's the baddest moment where he basically gets like Captain America. He gets frozen in a block of ice underwater, and then just like overheats his body, and like Superman chain rips out of it. And the Flash, I actually really love this issue.
No,
the actual
but
like,
I mean,
I agree. Ultimately, the actual like Freeze thing isn't like super engaging, but all the Batman stuff and the characterization, I'm really enjoying this run.
I completely agree. So, Joker, Year of the Villain by John Carpenter wrote this. I thought this was better than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a disaster, but I honestly was surprised. It's really just a story of Joker as he is escaping Arkham. But this is taking place during City of Bane, it was kind of showed that Joker was one of like the police detectives during this, but maybe he just broke off and decided to do his own thing. He's Joker, so it's not totally out of the realm. But he ends up just like finding like this kid that's also escaping Arkham and just kind of dubs him his Robin as it's the sick, twisted version of Batman and Robin as he's going around in a Batman costume, just murdering people. He murders a dog at one point, which is pretty hard to watch. But the entire book is very like disturbing and kind of seedy, where you don't really want to read it and you kind of feel dirty for reading it, which I thought fit the tone perfectly. And of course, at the end, the kid tries to get away from the Joker, but the Joker already figures out where he lives and where his mom's at and kidnaps his mom. And the guy tries to kill Joker, but he hesitates, and then Joker just kills him and goes along his business. It's like, yep, that's kind of the way it's going to go. I like this a lot. What do you guys think?
Was there a reference to Death in the Family at the end
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, when he beats him with the crowbar.
I haven't read it yet.
I don't want to say I love this because I think that would be the wrong descriptor just based on the tone of the book. But I think this is actually my pick of the week.
Yeah, it was in my mention as well.
Yeah, it's worth quickly noting that John Carpenter is co-writing with Anthony Birch. I'm not sure who that is. Art here is by Philip Tan. I thought the art was cool because, for one, it's like, as you said, in the art as well, it's like seedy. It's like the makeup on the Joker is never quite the same. It's always messy. He looks disturbing.
I didn't like what he did with the lips. I didn't like the makeup on his face. I thought it was really messy, and that could have been cleaned up a lot.
And Tan does this thing where there's lots of panel borders where he uses the ha ha ha, and it's very reminiscent of, like, say, something that Todd McFarlane used to do, like using webbing for panel borders on Spider-Man, or chains and skulls for Spawn. I really like this, and I think it, honestly, I feel like parts of this issue are kind of like what people were expecting and fearing from the Joker movie. I know you guys haven't seen it yet, but I feel like this issue actually captures some of the nonsensical expectations that people had for the Joker movie, but not really in a cringy way, if that makes any sense.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, there's some interesting points that the protagonist makes about violence. He's like, mentally ill people are actually more likely to be victims of violence rather than perpetrators. But maybe that's what makes Gotham special, where in Gotham, the crazy people are the people committing the violence. The Condiment King was used pretty well here because he's just such a ridiculous villain that there's just like no way to put him over. So he's like Kite Man on the 10th level. And then the way the Enchantress is worked in, that's actually where I was when she first popped up, and we get the first like bit of that. That's where I thought maybe it was about to veer into cringe, because for like half a second, our like protagonist character, like, you could definitely read this as like he becomes an incel in a way, like that kind of attitude where like Enchantress shows up, and like they make a point of the like Joker's lackey, the main character, like finding her attractive, and he's like, maybe we can team up with her and we can be more than friends. And then he like gets self-conscious, and she's like, oh, I know that look, I'm a beta cuck, essentially. And then Joker's like, I know what you're feeling, we're gonna start an uprising and take down this woman. It's kind of funny. And then he makes this point where he's like, the Joker's evil but not crazy, and I'm crazy and not evil. And then he kind of goes into the Scott Snyder territory where, while they're fighting, the Joker switches the Batman mask onto him so that someone in a Batman mask is choking him, and then he has like a rejected orgasm moment.
He literally said, he just says, "Do it harder."
Yeah, it really plays on a lot of different angles of the Joker, but it doesn't feel all over the place. It doesn't feel over the top in any of the arenas. I really like this. We were joking.
It was really
way
good.
back.
John Carpenter's not like he clearly knows horror, so putting him here is not like a horrible idea. I was very skeptical how the payoff was gonna be, but I think the payoff was very, very good.
Yeah. I think we were joking way back about how the best case scenario for this book is that it ends up in 10 years in a Best of the Joker collection. But having read it, I think it will be in a Best of the Joker collection, to be honest.
Yeah,
especially due to the one.
I can definitely see, like, yeah, this is going to be like an underrated, and you'll find it in a dollar bin or somewhere soon. Just in the nature of today's comics and how they work. But yeah, if you find this, definitely pick it up, read it. It was good. Why do we have dead air? One of us want to talk. Dan, didn't you read that book? Do you want to share?
What, Joker? Yeah, I already talked a little bit about it. It was good.
All right. Okay.
It was
Great. All right. All right. Black Hammer, Justice League number 4. This is my pick of the week. Is everything's kind of coming together and going. We got our Black Hammer characters fighting outside the Hall of Justice, looking for Golden Gale, who's then turned back into and is trying to take down Zatanna for using banned magic, while the Trinity and Cyborg are in the Black Hammer universe, trying to repairing Talkie-Walkie to figure out what the hell's going on. And then in the 5th dimension, this is the key to all this. We figure out with Colonel Weird and the Flash and Green Lantern who's behind all of these multiverse shenanigans, and it's none other than Mr. Mxyzptlk, who's making the lives hell for the Black Hammer characters and the DC Justice League. So everything's coming together here, and as the Trinity finds the Black Hammer, as Batman's like looking at it to pick it up, they get assaulted by all of the monsters that are kept in Madame Dragonfly's house, so they have to fight there. And then we leave this issue with everything about to be kind of go kablooey, with Mixie putting his final plans into motion here. This was really, really fun. Great reveal for Mixie to be the villain behind of all this, and how this all fits together makes it really, really fun. And then Michael Walsh's artwork, just completely beautiful as always. I love this series. Vince, I think you'll really like this when it's all said and done, when you finally get around to reading Black Hammer.
Yeah, I kind of missed the takeoff a bit, so I'll just read and trade when I read through more Black Hammer.
But yeah, this amazing how good and seamless Mixie's just entered in here, and it works totally.
Cool.
Buffy, I thought you were doing Coffin Bound next, but no, because I don't know how the alphabet works. Buffy and Angel Hellmouth number 1. The giant crossover is taken off. This is Jordi Belair and Jeremy Lambert. And then Eleonora Carlini, Chris Peter. The worst thing about this is that Joss Whedon's name is listed at the top of this. He has nothing to do with this book other than just being listed as creator. So I think there's a little bit of a false advertisement there, because with his name being at the top, I thought he was going to do at least something with this, but no, it's Belair, which is fine because the book's been good. I think Carlini's art is much better than the main art that's been on the Buffy book, and hopefully they become the main artist on Buffy after this. But Drusilla's opened the Hellmouth as everything's going crazy, and Buffy's trying to save her friends who are at the high school Halloween dance, trying to make sure that her friends are okay and her mom got out safe with Giles and Jenny Calendar. And eventually her and her friends all meet up in the library, and then Angel comes in, and he's looking for like a spell book that they have to go to. And eventually the conclusion is, hey, we got to jump into this portal to hell to save the day. And we get our first face-to-face meeting between Angel and Buffy, which I think is being a Buffy fan you've been waiting for. It's been teased like 3 times now, but now they're fully know it. Buffy runs into and sees one of her classmates dead in the main gym where the dance was, kind of knowing what the stakes are at this point for her. But yeah, they jump into the hell portal and they're gonna have to fight a bunch of monsters. This has been pretty fun. it's going to go through the Buffy and Angel books, and we're going to see if this event lasts too long, which is this is 5 issues, and then it's going to be issues that also tie into their respective books. So we'll see if I get like event fatigue from this, but still the Buffy line at Boom continues to be good. So we'll see how it ends up going.
Yeah, on the Whedon point, it just kind of brought to mind a similar comparison that his name wasn't really on. It's not like his name was on the top of the covers, but Neil Gaiman got like some kind of editor credit for anything related to Sandman for like a decade, and got paid for them, but like in practical terms didn't do shit. And then eventually he was like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense, so he gave it up. I don't know. I mean, Joss probably has to approve stuff. I'm not sure. But Coffin Bound number 3.
He has to like sign off on it, but like have it. You're good.
Yeah, so Coffin Bound number 3, I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what's going on anymore. But in the very end of the issue, someone literally just strips off all their skin. So if you're a body horror person, check out this issue, cut out the last page and put it over your bed or something. I don't know. This is a very strange book. I might drop it. I don't know. The one thing I will say is the artist for the series, Danny Strips, whatever she goes by, amazing artist. I'll definitely going to be watching what they're going to be doing next. I don't know. This doesn't actually, like, there's no actual significant connection, but Danny Strips from this series and Marie Levette from Faithless, 2 series that weren't really my cup of tea, not really my vibe, but the art from 2 artists that I was previously not that familiar with. Really into both of their art, and excited to see them on other stuff. I don't necessarily want or hope and that they're going to move over to superheroes or something. I don't think their style fits that. I don't know that they necessarily want to do that, but excited to see where they go next. That's Coffin Bound. And that might be the end of Coffin Bound on this podcast.
All right, so transitioning back to Marvel, we get into Doctor Doom number 1. So the first issue of the 2019 ongoing series for Doctor Doom. And I know a lot of us on this podcast were excited to finally read this issue. And we open with this project that's being explained. I think it's called Antlion. Antlion, I don't know how you pronounce it. And it's pretty much a like greenhouse conserving like project that is basically like a black hole that sucks stuff through the dark side of the moon and like takes all the greenhouse gases from the earth to like the dark side of the moon, shoots it through a black hole. It's really weird. Anyway, and they're like, if we do this, we can reduce the temperature of the planet, we can save on pollution, all that stuff. And they bring Dr. Doom on to kind of get his personal take on this whole project, and he's just like, this is not going to work, this is going to spell destruction. And the people are like, well, what do you know? So we then pan back to Latveria, where we just get brought up to speed, I guess, on the state of Latveria at this point with Dr. Doom, kind of walking through, dictating to some of his, people below him. And then, we also kind of see like the generous side of him, with his Latverian people and how he looks after them, which is always the dichotomy of him with this country that he founded. So we then pan back later that night to Dr. Doom kind of sitting in his study where he's visited by Kang the Conqueror. They kind of discuss a little bit about the Antlion project and, what's going to happen with it in the future and all that stuff. And then we kind of go towards this, I'll say, and you guys could probably comment on this as we go along here, but I feel like this issue jumps around a lot in terms of like what it's establishing, and it's a little disjointed in some areas. I think because we pan to like this scene where like Victor Von Doom's kind of like sitting with like his family and his children, and I'm pretty sure that's like a mirage. And then we kind of see him opening a door to the dark side of the moon, so that's a little bit of foreshadowing, I guess. And then we go back to the reality, and Doctor Doom has actually kidnapped one of the newscasters that like shit on him earlier in the story, which I think is a little crazy. And I'm not sure if we're supposed to like laugh at that or whatever, but it was a little
Doom's crazy, man. What do you mean?
I know. Well, I'm just saying, like, it's just a weird way to, I guess, inject humor into this book. And then we get another kind of like flashback of like Victor with this child. His name's Costin. I mean, Vince can probably talk more about this as we go along here. But
no, that's just still his like fantasy or whatever. That it's just one of the children from the previous scene.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's nothing really real. So the last thing we kind of get here is the antlion. I don't know how you pronounce it. Antlion project actually gets like terrorized by these terrorists. Like they actually end up sending like missiles and blowing up parts of the project on the moon. And we see these like purple and gray robots emerge, and it's like a newscast. So I don't know what's happening here. I mean, there's a lot of setup here, and I'm kind of excited to see where it goes. And yeah, Salvador LaRocca art, pretty familiar with it. Thought it was pretty solid. In some points, some areas it's a little more cringy, but overall I thought it was pretty good art. So, what did you guys think?
Wondering how you forget to mention the part where when we get back to reality, missiles are launched on the Antlion facility, and it makes it in the name of Latveria. So every country in the world comes after Doom. So he ends up fighting Agent Zero and Union Jack, and he just surrenders because he knows he's going to get taken down. So he has to now clear his name.
Oh shoot, I forgot that. My bad.
I do like
I really
when Kang King was just like, I do like when Kang showed up. Doom's just like, I'm growing tired of this. Like, stop messing with me, please. But yeah, I'm wondering how like this whole mirage is going. I think it's dealing with something how Kang is traveling back because they've hinted that something's broken on Kang. But I do like this a lot. It's really having fun with Doom in a really cool way. I think Christopher Cantwell's he understands Doctor Doom as a character. So this has kind of been like a sleeper hit because we didn't really know what to expect from this, and it's been a very good book, at least for the first issue. Solid first issue, and I definitely am intrigued and want to keep reading more. But Vince is the more resident Fantastic Four guy who has read more Fantastic Four than I have by a long margin. What did you think of this?
I mean, I don't have a ton to add on the Fantastic Four realm, but yeah, I agree. I didn't really know anything about this going in. I didn't have high expectations. There's like a Loki miniseries which is going on right now too. I think it's basically wrapping up possibly this week. And like the premise of that and everything and what little I've seen, I had like zero interest in that. And there was a previous Loki miniseries not too long ago. So for some reason, and just like subconsciously, I'm like, okay, this is going to be like that. Here's some writer who doesn't write that many comics. I'm not sure about Christopher Cantwell's backstory. He may be like comics, but I don't recognize his name. So it's like, okay, this is going to be some filler trash to pump out in the miniseries. But I was really impressed. I think it's a runner-up for me for Pick of the Week behind Joker. But I enjoyed it. LaRocca, I think it helps that the main character wears a mask, so you don't get into the territory of likenesses and uncanny valley though there's a little bit of that with the TV anchors in the first few pages. Yeah, Doom, his characterization is really great. I like how Doom and Kang, they're handled very well, their characterization, but also like they're allowed to have fun, but it's also not campy. It's kind of like the best tone for Marvel comics, superhero comics for me, because I don't like writers that try and make it funny or cute and go too over the top. Bendis, Jason Aaron, they do a little bit of that, and I also don't like writers that take everything way too seriously and are afraid of the fun. And yeah, I think it's a really interesting kind of corner to put Doom in, where he literally resorts to that point. He's like total and unconditional surrender, and then really he's just like toying with Union Jack, and also he doesn't want to get beat up and stuff, but he was ready to surrender, and then these jerks are like, they want the headline, you could argue. I love this. Somehow this is Doctor Doom Volume 1, which is slightly interesting to me. Though Doctor Doom has starred in solo books before, he had 2 miniseries by Chuck Dixon in the early 2000s, but they were just called Doom. And then there's Ed Brubaker's kind of forgotten work, which desperately needs to be reprinted at some point, Books of Doom, from the mid 2000s. And then, of course, Doom 2099 ran a whole 44 issues. A big chunk of which written by Warren Ellis. And in fact, if you didn't know, Doom 2099 is actually 616 Doom due to time travel shenanigans and stuff like that.
It's crazy.
Well, yeah,
all those danced around, like calling the book just Doctor Doom. Yeah. Like, what are the chances?
So Doctor Doom Volume 1 started, I would say it's worthy of the name.
I was gonna say very solid start. Something that has stopped being solid, and I just want it to be over. Event Leviathan number 5. Bendis and Maleev. Thank God Maleev is doing art on this that's beautiful, because I just don't care anymore. I was the lone person defending this, and now it almost has like go away heat for me. I just want it to be over, because you'd think by issue 5 we'd know who Leviathan is, and we still don't really know who it is by the end of this. We have like a solid lead. They even like take a moment to like stop and be like, hey, guess what? It's not Maxwell Lord. Most of the internet thinks it's Maxwell Lord, but it's not. So it's just like Bendis toying with who this person is going to be and like stretching it out even further. But we got Lois Lane, who runs into this other group of detectives who's also still talking to the group of detectives we have. And they're all basically leading their evidence is heavily hinted that General Sam Lane is definitely part of Leviathan in the very least somewhere. And she goes and talks to him and is like, yeah, I know I was with them. And then like a giant shootout happens and everything gets even more confusing. And then they get like transported to like the Himalayan mountains somewhere as Sam Lane's dying. And then Superman and Plastic Man are like in Leviathan headquarters and figuring out where it is there. And then we're going to cut back to the detectives, Batman, Manhunter, Question, Green Arrow, Jason Todd's still hanging out with them. Damian's there. We're all like trying to work it out. And they all and Damian looks at Kate Spencer, Manhunter, with her staff. And it's like, hey, this technology is similar to Leviathan technology. Are you the only one who has it? And she's like, no, all the Manhunters have it. And it's where like they're putting it together that that maybe the original Manhunter is Leviathan, which by this point I just don't care anymore. I want it to be over. We should have found out who this was a lot earlier, and then Batman's like giant truck is just like stopped by Talia al Ghul, who's like, hey, I'm here now, and also let's go take down Leviathan. So I was like, I don't care anymore. Just have it be over. There's one more issue. This story's gone on too long.
Yeah, so this is what I meant by Bendis being too cute, where there's the Maxwell Lord part, and then there's also a joke about Constantine looking like Sting, which I don't really like acknowledging. But the thing is, it's not really hinted that it's the original Manhunter. It's hinted that it could be a Manhunter, but that's entirely a futile. Well, it's basically a pointless thing. It's not remotely a reveal because Manhunters, you've got Paul Kirk, Dan Richards, Mark Shaw, the clone of Paul Kirk, Chase Lawler, Kirk DePaul, and Manhunter 2070. And it's post Flashpoint, and 90% of those characters have never shown up in this continuity. So hypothetically, every single one could be alive. It could be any of them. And then, of course, there's the whole Manhunters kind of cosmic Green Lantern related type deal. So this is like the reveal is going to be, and I guess it's got to be 6 issues. I don't remember. I don't really I don't even know if I have it in me to read the next one if it weren't the final one, because like I mean, the Malieve art looks fine, but even still, I don't know how much of this is him and how much of it is Bendis. But like, some of the pacing and the storytelling isn't clear to me, and I don't care.
The worst part about this is because we have to wait for the other Superman books to catch up. Like even after this series is over, like there's going to be like 2 issues overrun of Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen still dealing with this bullshit, and I'm so done with it, and I want it to be over.
The other thing is, so again, with things being unclear, I don't think Sam Lane died in this issue.
No, but he's near death though.
Okay, well, it would also be great if Bendis does not kill Sam Lane, because that's a major Superman character. There's no reason to kill him for this shitty story. Don't kill him.
Well, also Bendis is just like ignoring what happened in Jurgen's Action Comics in Action 999, right before 1000. Like Sam Lane made peace with Clark and like wants to like have a relationship with Clark and Lois and get to know his grandson and John, because they have sit down for a dinner. And that's the final issue before Bendis took over. And I was like, yeah, why is Sam Lane bad again? He made peace with Clark and Lois and is going to make an effort to be a grandfather to Jonathan Kent. It's just like him always ignoring continuity like he always has. And it's now overstaying its welcome, where like the grace period of him being at DC is completely over for me. And I'm just like, yep, you're just ruining the Superman books at this point.
Talking about things that are getting ruined, Hawkman number 17. So he's in the Shadowlands. He's fighting Shadow Thief, who uses Hawkman's own shadow against him. So they fight he's fighting his own shadow, and it's kind of cool, but his shadow also acts as a voodoo doll. So he's basically fighting a version of himself, but also when he hits himself, he's hitting himself. So he's just totally fucked and he can't do much. And then I'm not 100% certain what happens here. It might be because I didn't read the entire beginning of the series, so I don't know like how his mace works now. But he has a moment where he's like on the ground and he's like defeated, and then he like, similar to like the way that Thor like Wreath summons Mjolnir and stuff like that, he like manipulates the mace, and then the mace just smashes into Shadow Thief's back, and then he wins. It's kind of anticlimactic. I'm not really certain what was going on, but that's how it works. And then he crushes some device which Shadow Thief was using to help him, and his shadow comes back. S.H.I.E.L.D. gets his shadow back, and then Hawkman almost kills Shadow Thief, but S.H.I.E.L.D. stops him, and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s like, you got something going on. And Hawkman's like, I got something going on. And then there's like a snap and silhouette panels, and suddenly he is Sky Tyrant. And this is some Man Who Laughs garbage. So I'm not sure how many issues this series is going to take to tie into this stupid Batman Who Laughs infected arc, but not excited about that. And also the design looks awful. He has like, it's like this weird like wood looking mask that covers his entire face, and like weird dangly things off of it. It's really dumb. But that's Hawkman. This issue up until the last page was enjoyable.
I feel like this show started really hot with us being happy, and with each book, we're just getting angrier and more bitter.
That's true.
Like a dip in happiness as the show's gone on.
All right, Invaders number 10. This isn't a sour spot for me though. Whereas previous issues, I was a lot more apprehensive and critical about this series. So we open with a very brief flashback sequence by Butch Guice. In World War II, the next advance is a little bit off, so everyone is basically on shore leave. Cap's like, "Where's Bucky?" And it's like, "He went home." And Steve, I think it's actually an interesting idea presented here, where Steve is afraid to go back to Brooklyn because he thinks it might change like his spirit in the battlefield. And so Namor's like, "Hey, hitch a ride with me." And so he gives him a tour of Atlantis, and Steve's like, "Wow, this is cool." And then we get to the present where Steve and Bucky are in Atlantis and now transformed into Atlanteans. And it does point out Bucky is missing an arm because he's not going to take his metal arm underwater because everyone will recognize him. And so he's at a disadvantage. And along the way, they rescue Hydro Man very quickly. I don't know if Hydro Man is going to come back up in this series. It kind of feels like just a subplot to use 2 issues and then show a bit of characterization as far as Steve like rescuing villains and stuff. And Namor shows up too. He's now split from Makan, or however you pronounce his name. And in all the chaos, Roxxon agents get away with the compound. And then Torch and Toro are getting messed around by Makan. And Steve gets on his suit. And it's cool because for a while he's in the Captain America suit, but he still has the blue skin, and he's like he has like a water breathing apparatus, which is kind of cool. And then he gets in he gets in the middle of something. It's both him and Namor in the middle of the Roxxon folks, and then Steve essentially like gasses like the cure. And then they jump in the water, and then they're stranded on an island, and that's where the issue ends. And I think this issue ends with Namor is a human.
Yeah,
so,
while Steve's trying to escape, the gunfire hits the compound, which caused it to explode, and Namor and Captain America were both caught in the middle of it. So Namor's a human now.
Which I'm guessing that'll get reversed.
Well, yeah, we also. But it's an interesting development how to end this and spin it though.
And I'll also note, I believe somewhere off panel, Bucky is still Atlantean. So obviously we'll have to get back to that.
Yeah.
But now that Namor and Makan have split, I'm less anxious about reading this series. And as I've said, even on the previous issues, Zdarsky and Carlos Magno and definitely Butch Guice are doing really good work on this series.
I thought this was a much stronger issue from Magno recently, especially with the water effects and all of the sea creatures. I thought that was really, really strong here. Butch Guice's art, even though it was like only like 2 pages, and that opening sequence with Cap and Namor looked amazing, as it always does. I do wish like he was drawing all of this, but it's just not feasible. But Magno's art I thought was brought up a little bit here, as I thought it would lack the last couple of issues. But I'm looking forward to Cap and Namor on a deserted island in the next issue. So, all right, so quickly going to talk about Spawn number 301. Guys, it's record-breaking. 27 years, Todd has realized everything is now he owns the longest creator-owned comic of all time. The issue itself, this is the last issue of Spawn I'm reading. I stayed on through 300 in this. The new status quo is set up is Spawn is now publicly known as Al Simmons, and we have other people with like Hellspawn symbiotes showing up. The counter for Spawn's powers fully reaches 0, but it's realized that like that was just like a countdown that all of the hell demons put in place because they were scared if Spawn ever reached it, because Spawn can control the symbiote. But he pulled off a giant explosion to kill Clown and them, so he has to like wait for his powers to come back. But now he's getting like confronting all these demons and kind of just like exposing these government conspiracies and cover-ups. Todd draws like the first 4 pages of this, and it looks great. Jason Sean Alexander's art still continues to be pretty cool looking and very horror filled with the book. And then Clayton Crane does the last 4 pages of this, and that looks good too. As Spawn's continuing to fight these devil creatures. As we enter in this new era of Spawn status quo with these other Spawns popping up. So it looks like there's going to be more than just Al Simmons from now on. But Al Simmons is still going to be the main character. But hey, congrats to Todd. 27 years, longest creator-owned book. Over thousands of pages, hundreds of characters, dozens of creators, seven image partners, and 3 decades, and 1 record. So from June 1992 to October of 2019, applaud Todd McFarlane on Spawn.
Yeah, he beat the record of Cerebus. He could have just canceled it right now. He could have pulled a Walking Dead. Just imagine in your head if there was a Youngblood 301, a Wildcats 301. Savage Dragon will get there though.
I love the visual he put in the back of this, where he shows his daughter in 1992 to now, and it's like she's just fully grown. That's how to show the scope of time it took. I thought that was pretty funny. But no, like I think what
I was gonna say, it's worth noting none of us were alive when Spawn #1 came out.
No, I was born at 95. Dan, are we all 95?
No, I'm 94.
You're 94. But it is a huge moment for, at least in comics history, that like you move past. Like 300 issues is nothing to sniff at. It's a very pretty big celebration. I know like Todd, our love of Todd is a little bit of a meme, but it's definitely an accomplishment that should be noted.
For sure. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's great, especially knowing that like he's the one Image founder that has never really gone back to the big 2, and to him have that record, I think it means more.
Yeah, for sure.
But Wonder Twins #8, Mark Russell continues to be great. We have it's the high school reunion as the Wonder Twins are planning that, and the high school principal used to have a fling with the librarian who they went to school together, and now they've grown up to be the principal and the librarian of the respected school, which I think is kind of funny. And it's all about the principal not wanting to like face the past because he regrets breaking up with her and is kind of like longing for the life he possibly could have had. Meanwhile, and really should have he wanted to apologize, which is all juxtaposed with Jaina wanting to apologize to Polly Math, who is in the juvenile detention center because of what happened in the first part of the series where she became a villain. And it's all about confronting and apologizing then and not waiting, which I thought was, I mean, it's a pretty good message to what Russell has here. And I do think that it's hilarious that the detention center is called Prison Kids with a Z. And if you're wondering, it is a subsidiary of Lexicon Prisons. The humor with Lex Luthor owning everything in the DC universe continues to be like really, really funny. And like the only person like on the approved visitors page for Polly, it's everyone except Jaina. So like Jaina has to find a way to talk to Polly because she believes that her dad, who she believes is dead, is still alive. The humor continues to be good here. Like it's the theme of the high school reunion is a casino night. So Zan ends up becoming like a head of a casino and takes his friends to make sure that no one's winning too much, and that one of the people at the reunion is won like 4 hands of blackjack in a row, so they like take him to a back room and shake him down, which I really thought was funny. The dude's trying to win this ceramic dog, and they break the ceramic dog in front of him to break him to expose that he's cheating. Like the humor continues to be there. This is a really really fun series, and I'm excited to go where it goes because Jaina does get to Polly at the end of this and does reveal that, hey, I'm sorry, and I think your dad's still alive, and I think we can help. So continues to be one of the best books DC's publishing. Russell and Norton, great. Cool. Into our last book this week.
Yeah, we're going to close things out with Power of X number 6, and this is the final part of the Hoxpox saga. I want to just quickly, since I missed last week and I'm usually the X-Men guy, House of X number 6, read that obviously. I thought it was pretty good. These last 2 issues kind of ramped up in certain ways. The last issue, I feel, got a lot of buzz on social media. Lots of people were sharing certain panels. There's the moment where essentially Nightcrawler is like, hey, God would say we all got to have a lot of sex. And so it becomes orgy time, not literally on the panels, but implied essentially. And they all have a bunch of cans of beer. So now Powers of X number 6, the final part of this 12-part beginning of the story. Huh?
Why don't they just get a couple of kegs? Why do they only have cans of beer?
Or you think, I don't know, maybe the Krakoa could do something for them. Who knows? But the critical thing I'll say about Powers of X number 6 is that in the beginning and at the very end, like literally like a fifth of this book is recycled pages, though there's different scripting all over them. But we pick up with the year 1000, and the librarian character is chatting with Wolverine and Moira. And the idea is basically that machines simply are like a side attraction to the inevitable. And the idea is that engineering, whether it's in the traditional like mechanical sense with sentinels and stuff, or bioengineering, is in a way it's faster than evolution. So humans, like for example, Captain America or other more major examples, have superpowers, but they're not mutants. And so in that sense, humans, once they reach a certain threshold and everything, they can actually surpass mutants because they can be faster than evolution or whatever. That's the idea. And aided by machines. And so kind of the essence there is that mutants always lose. That's the message here. And Logan, and they come to the conclusion, and there's stuff going on. And so Logan stabs Moira, and that ends her 6th life. So that year 1000 was her 6th life, which I feel like is weird because I feel like 7 through 9, I don't remember the exact status quo for them, but I feel like whatever it is, it would be weird if those are after the 6th life, but whatever. So then the present is her 10th life. And so she's actually alive. We haven't seen her much in the present timeline. And so she's like, she has a secret room like on Krakoa, and she's essentially hidden because if she dies, that fucks everything up. And she's conspiring and consulting with Charles and Eric. And the one wrinkle here is that Mystique is a member of their little council, and as part of her joining, they made her a promise about destiny, and they can't fulfill that, or at least not for a while. So that'll probably come up down the line, next major arc on the Hickman side. And I guess it ends with Magneto coming out of the closet. That was my takeaway. I'm just joking, but yeah, I thought House of X number 6 was more interesting to me than this. I thought this ending was a little anticlimactic, but that's just the nature of it because this entire 12-issue story was actually just a prologue. Because it's Jonathan.
I kind of figured that. laying the groundwork for what the crux of this run is going to be about. I thought it was really, really damn good, but coming out of it, like they're villains, right? Like they're bad guys.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's definitely complicated, and it'll be interesting to see what they actually do in ongoing like books that require villains and stuff, because there are no mutant villains that they're fighting.
Yeah,
there's still going to be
unless any
anti-mutant.
of them go.
But yeah, the dawn of X, as they're calling this wave of books, starts literally next week, and we're probably going to be
X-Men number
1. We'll see. I'm probably going to stick with. I'm going to try out probably every single thing, and we'll see which ones I stick with. I don't expect you guys to dive in quite as much as me, obviously.
I've selected what I'm reading.
Yeah.
I'm going to read.
One question.
I'm going to read.
Okay. The one question I'll quickly ask is, over New York Comic Con, Marvel finally announced a real Wolverine returning to an ongoing series for the first time in like literally 4+ years, and it's Benjamin Percy and Adam Kubert. Do you guys have any very quick thoughts, yay or nay, or like in the middle?
I mean, it's eventful because he's been dead. He was dead for a lot longer than I thought he actually would be. And like, I'm guessing like that Charles Soule mini one where he had Hot Claws just doesn't count as a run then. But I'll probably read the first issue and then I don't feel like I'll stick with it. But I'm just, when I saw the initial announcement, as I read the article, I was like, oh, they're just going to announce that this Charles Soule still on Wolverine. But I was like, actually, oh, okay. I was happy to see Benj Percy on it just because it is someone new. Kubert on art, I feel like it's going to be hit or miss, especially in 2019. We'll see how it goes. I'll at least read the first issue.
Yeah, kind of same here.
Yeah,
Dan, you gonna read
in the middle?
You gonna read any of the X-Men books, or are you still nah?
I'm gonna read them in trade. That's my plan.
All right.
All right. So tune in next week, and we will report on the beginnings of Dawn of X and whatever other exciting books are out. You know, there's probably another Batman book that comes out every week.
I think Batman 81 is next week.
All right. Thanks for watching this episode.
We gotta do the retro book.
The retro book, I ran the RNG, and it's going to be Resurrection Man number 1,000,000, which, to be honest, we're probably getting off lucky there because it was an annual, so be easier for our reading.
Oof.
Dan,
I just want to have the record that my choices beat Dan's now twice in a row.
Dan, I want to quickly note, because I don't think you know anything that we're talking about. Resurrection Man is Dan Abbott and Andy Lanning. Just FYI.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
So it shouldn't be complete trash, but tune in to see what we think of that and various other books next week. Thanks for watching this one. Have a good night.